Welcome to the wonderful world of pricing on your pricing tab. This section is a big one. This is where you set the foundation for your property pricing strategy. We're talking base rates, taxes, cleaning fees, currencies, minimum stay rules, length of stay discounts, and more. It's a mix of the must-dos and the pro moves. Whether you are using dynamic pricing or doing manual pricing, this section is fundamental and so important. So let's walk through each section step by step because I want to make sure you feel confident and in control of your pricing with Hostfully. Before we dive in, I like to start with a quick reminder that you can go to your calendar by clicking on this little calendar icon, and it's going to take you to this property-specific calendar page where you can still edit some specific days and the minimum stays, the nightly pricing, the check-in and check-out restrictions, and edit all of these here at the calendar. But let's get back to what we're here for and stay focused on the pricing tab. This is the pricing settings section, which is collapsible and expandable. Remember, we have these bulk edit options where you can bulk edit and these info dots that are going to give you little tidbits and tricks and reminders. For currency, just so you know, this is the currency that is specific for this property. Two things to keep in mind is that Verbo does have currency limitations, and Booking.com does require you to use the currency of the country that the property is located in. Some countries are allowed to use a second currency option. So if you're still in onboarding, please reach out to your onboarding manager, or you can reach out to the Hostfully chat on the bottom right corner of any Hostfully screen and ask for a list of the up-to-date dual currency options for Booking.com. Next, let's look at the nightly base price. Here's where you can put in your nightly base price. Even if you're using a dynamic pricing tool, this field is still required, so just enter the base price you'd be comfortable accepting at this location. Weekend rate adjustment is something you can skip if you're using a dynamic pricing tool, but if you're using manual pricing, it's a really great tool where you can increase by a certain set percentage for Friday or Saturday nights. Next is the minimum price rule. This one's really cool. This minimum price rule is where you can enable or disable the option to ensure that you're hitting your minimum revenue for those shorter stays. So for example, let's say your base rate is $100 per night and your minimum stay is 3 nights. That's a $300 total stay. With the minimum price rule, guests could still book a 1 or 2 night stay, but they would still pay $300 because that is your minimum price rule. This is a bulk edit option, so you can edit this among all of your properties, and it's a new feature in Hostfully. Okay, the moment we've all been waiting for, let's talk taxes. So, add the tax rate here. We have a couple different options depending on how you're doing taxes, but before we dive in to what exactly you want to put here, let's go over what taxes you're charging and collecting and which taxes you are not. So Airbnb typically continues collecting and remitting taxes on your behalf. So if they collected your taxes before connecting with Hostfully, they're going to continue to do so. For Verbo and direct bookings, you are the merchant of record. So you are responsible for collecting and remitting your own taxes. Not sure what applies to you? You can always reach out for your onboarding specialist and they will help input the numbers into Hostfully. But you are responsible to come up with those numbers from your local government and tell us where the taxes apply. So make sure before you meet with your onboarding manager, or if you're setting this up for the first time, that you go to those local.gov websites or call your local municipality to figure out what your taxes are. It could be state, local, county, a hotel tax. So make sure we have them all. There's a couple different ways we can put them in the system. You can take all of your taxes and combine them together and put them in this tax rate field. So let's say I have a 5% state tax and a 2% city tax. I could just put 7 here and that will just lump them together and charge them as one combined rate. Alternately, add just part of your taxes here. Like for example, if I have 5% state tax, I can just put 5 here. And then we can itemize under the fees and policies tab, the other taxes. So I could go into the fees and policies tab later on and add that 2% city tax. The difference on how you do this is actually pretty simple. It's how you're remitting the taxes that I recommend doing this off of. So if you have your 5% state tax and your 2% city tax, but you just send them all to the same place, you can lump them together and put them in this tax rate box. If you have a 5% state tax that you have to send to the state and a 2% city tax that you have to send on a different website to a different location to the city, I recommend separating them because then we can pull reports later that say, this is how much I collected for state, so you can send that to the state, and this is how much I collected for the city, and you can send that to the city. So just figuring out your taxes is half the battle, and we can help you input them appropriately. But once you find that right number, go ahead and put the tax rate right there. If you're not sure what your taxes are, you definitely want to do a little bit of research. You can even check your Airbnb tax settings. It may not be perfect, but it's a good starting point if you're looking to figure out what taxes you're supposed to be charging. While you're doing your tax research, that leads right into this other little box. We have this box you can check or uncheck for long-term stay exemptions. Check this box if your area considers bookings over a certain length, example 30 nights, not subject to short-term rental taxes. Next, we have your security deposit. If you require one, enter the amount here. Each channel handles security deposits a little bit differently. Booking.com, if you're using payments by Booking, their payment processing system, you may need to manually collect this deposit after the booking is made. Airbnb actually doesn't collect security deposits at all, but they will say or display a note that damage fees may apply. For Vrbo or direct booking, this is a full charge and a full refund, and it gets charged depending on how you'd like to collect it. You can go to your drop-down menu and see agency settings where you can enable auto refunds and set whether you want to collect this at the time of booking or at check-in. If you set it to collect at check-in, we don't process that. You would have to process it like cash or credit on site like a hotel. But if you want to select it and charge it through Stripe or vacation rent payment, you can select it to be charged at the time of booking for those channels. Cleaning fee, this is the flat rate per stay and gets pushed out to all connected channels. Cleaning fee tax, while you're doing your tax research, some states or counties or countries require you to tax your services, and cleaning's a service. So you just need to enter in your tax amount here if you are in a location that requires you to tax your services. And once these fields are all set, you can hit save price settings to save it just for this property. But if you need to come in and let's say update your security deposit and you want to change that to all of your properties, because they're bulk edit fields, you can hit bulk save and apply to all or selected properties. All right, next, let's take a look at price rules. And I think this is the fun stuff. This is how you can do some dynamic pricing rules to fine tune your strategies. All you have to do is click add a rule and choose your rule type. We have 4 different rule types. There's length of stay discount, last minute discount, short stay premium, and early bird discount. First, let's talk about each of those. Length of stay discount gives guests a discount for longer bookings. Example, 10% off a stay that's longer than, let's say, 16 nights. Where a last minute discount offers a small discount, let's say 3%, if the property is still available 5 days or so before arrival. And you can see every time I'm changing these, the compatible channels is updating as well. So I can see that length of stay is applicable to direct booking, Airbnb, Vrbo, and Marriott, where last minute discount is only available for direct booking, Airbnb, and Marriott, and no longer Vrbo. So let's look at the third option, short stay premium. This one is only applicable for direct bookings, but it's really cool. This is so you can increase your rate by, let's say, a percentage, like 15%, if short bookings under a certain number of nights. So let's see, when a stay is equal or below 4 nights, I want to increase the rate by 15%. This is perfect if you want to discourage short stays without charging your minimum price rule. And last but definitely not least, you have your early bird discount, where you can encourage a percentage, let's say 20%, for guests to book far in advance. So this is by months of or before months of arrival. So let's say if they book 12 months before the arrival, we're going to offer a 20% discount. And the best part about all of this is you can apply them to all or selected properties after you give them a name and hit save. You can add as many pricing rules or length of stay discounts as you'd like. There's no limit. And that is an easy and quick wrap on your pricing tab. Whether you're setting the foundation or fine-tuning your strategy, this section is key to keeping your property competitive and profitable.